Thank you, everyone. It's 5:30, and we are ready to begin our meeting here at the Waterbury Arts Magnet School Board of Education, October 27th, 2016. We will begin with a moment of silence and proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. Moment of silence. Everyone together, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, I want to first thank the commissioners for coming out. We were back and forth with the weather, snow, rain, snow, rain. Nonetheless, we're here, so I thank you all for being here. We will begin with the first item, Committee of the Whole, request for Wilby Sports Alumni Club to name Wilby High School their softball field in honor of Winfield, if I mispronounced the name, sorry, Chesky. So we have Mr. Parisi, is he here? Please come forward. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Evening.
We're waiting for you.
Okay. I just actually offered to Mr. Parisi to come up with him.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Win Chesky was someone who dedicated his life to athletics and to our students at Wilby for his entire career. Someone I knew very, very well, worked with firsthand for over 20 years. And I was just really, really proud and pleased that Mr. Parisi brought forth the suggestion of us naming the softball field at Wilby after Win, who spent so many years there affecting the lives of our students and young softball players. So, Joe, if you want to take it from there, please.
Yes, I'd just like to reinforce the recommendations from a lot of the people who sent letters to the Board of Ed in honor of Mr. Chesky, and also Pedro De Brito, which I want to mention about the soccer field next. Win Chesky, I knew him for about 30 years. I coached football with him at Wilby from, I guess from 92 up until 2008. He transferred over to Kennedy High School as an assistant coach for 8 years up there. But I knew him all along when I used to go visit him a lot at the school. He was a great guy. He really was. He did so much for the kids. He was there till 4 or 5 o'clock every day with the kids. He was a mentor and a role model to so many different people. And like I said, I don't think I can do justification to the letters and everything that was sent in. All I can say is the celebration of his life, I believe it was July 9th. I had followed him from the day he had the stroke down to Yale, New Haven when he passed away. I was there. We were there for about 3 hours with him. And when the celebration of life was brought up, I assumed that, there'd be faculty people there, some students. But as Joe can tell you, there probably had to be 500 or 600 people there. There were people there that he had coached probably in 1992, both girls and guys. They came out of the stands, they came onto the floor, and each and every one of the people got up there, and they said something about this gentleman that was truly amazing, that what he did and what he didn't do. So at that point, a lot of people came over and said to me, Joe, why don't you do something for the coach? And I said, well, what would you like to do? I said, well, we'd like to, the recommendations were coming from all kinds of people. How about getting the softball field named after Coach Chesky? And I said, well, I'll take it upon myself, and I'll find out exactly how it's got to be done. And I contacted the people. I had to find out about it. And I sent a letter in. If I talk about Pedro, that was the
Please,
second
yes,
one?
go right on
Yeah,
to item
Pedro
2.
De Brito was a completely different situation entirely. He had died, I believe, in 2014 in a car accident in Miami, Florida. But he had graduated from Willoughby in 1978. And when he came from Cape Verde, an island, I believe, off the coast of Puerto Rico, I believe. And him and his family, they're all immigrants, they moved to Miami. And from Miami, he eventually ended up at Willoughby High School. And he graduated the class in 1978, where they had no soccer. And he was a fantastic soccer player at 14 years old. His sister Vera filled me in on all the information about him, and I was amazed, because here's a kid who was 14 years old playing semi-pro soccer with men throughout the state of Connecticut. And by the time he was 18, he got a 4-year scholarship at the University of Connecticut. His first year there, he was an honorable mention All-American NCAA. The second year, he was an All-American NCAA for the entire country. The soccer team in UConn won the national championship that year. And for the 4 years he was there, he's got more records. And if you check his resume, you go online, I can't justify everything he did, because it's amazing what he did. In 12 years, he was a professional athlete. He was drafted #1 from UConn in the Soccer Pro League. He was on the USA national team his second year after you're in the pros. So I was talking to Gianni Perugini. Matter of fact, he works in this building here. He was a soccer coach at Willoughby at the time about 3 years ago, and I believe Joe knows him. And Johnny said to me, he said, you know, you guys always recommend and always do reunions and honor guys from Willoughby High School, and we've been doing that for 23 years. He said, how about Pedro? And I said, gee, I said, you know, I didn't know him personally. I said, but, you know, I think down the road, I said, we have an opportunity, we will do that. This past year, his sister and I guess the family, they run a 3-day tournament up at Willoughby High School on Memorial Day weekend. There had to be about 1,500 to 2,000 people there. So I didn't know her. I went up there, and I saw Joe Palladino from the newspaper. I said, Joe, please introduce me to Vera so I can find out who she was, so we can get this thing going and find out exactly what it was all about. So I talked to her, and I told her I'd like to honor her, and we just honored him October 16th at our sports alumni reunion at Willoughby High School in the Media Center. And I told her, I said, I'm going to initiate a letter to the Board of Education trying to get the soccer field at Willoughby High School named after Pedro. Graduated from there. He's an icon for soccer in the state of Connecticut. There's nobody in the city of Waterbury, there's nobody in the state of Connecticut that's done what he's done in soccer for about 12 years. There's nobody. You go online and you read that, it'll blow your mind. I could not believe that people in Waterbury didn't know this guy, what he did. So my recommendation tonight is I'd like to see both these fields be named after these two people, because one was a faculty member for 30 years and did so many wonderful things. In today's age, where everybody's knocking education, here's a guy that did it for 30 or 35 years, and I think he makes everybody proud of what he's done. I mean, the kids that got up there and spoke about him, it's unbelievable. And in Pedro's situation, I believe the family has always raised about $30,000 in scholarship money, and in a few years they've been around. They support the Boys Club, they support different organizations in soccer, and I just think that it'd be a wonderful thing to initiate that field for Pedro. That's my recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I will now open the floor up for any questions or comments. Commissioner Tom Van Stone.
Thank you. I'm probably the reverse of what you're talking about. I do not know when, but I certainly know, being from a soccer family, the history of Pedro. And you're right, he is a Waterbury legend for those of us who know his history. I think naming the soccer field is the least of what we should do in his memory. When they do have this tournament yearly, there's former pro soccer players that come back to this town because of who Pedro is. I don't, you know, we have our holding period where we, you know, go through on the naming, but certainly, like I said, for the soccer field, that's the least of what we should do in Pedro's memory. And we should certainly move forward with this. So thank you for bringing it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further comments? Questions? All right, I'll call on Commissioner Sweeney just to explain what the next steps would be.
Yeah, the next step is that it has now been presented to the board, the committee of the whole, and we take 60 days to allow the public to come forward and comment if they would like to. And at that point, then we can put it to the floor of the board for a vote. So 60 days from now, there will be a vote. I don't know exactly what that date is. Yeah, somewhere in December, but we'll make sure that we let you know when that vote is going to occur.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you
It
for giving
sounds
me the
good to me,
opportunity to
too.
speak, too. Thank you.
All right, and we would encourage you to, the day of the vote, by all means, come and talk with us, address the board again in regards to your request, and then we will take a vote that evening.
All right. Would it be all right if I invite the sisters to come from, they live
Yes,
in
it
New
would be.
Haven.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
I'd like to have them come down here because I told them what I was going to do, and I'd like to do it with them because, I think it's important, right, really.
And also know that we can, at that evening when we vote, that you can address the board, so if any
Okay.
one of the family members wishes to address the board, that is welcome.
And the
Okay.
clerk of the board does have your contact information, so she will make sure that she'll give you a heads up in plenty of time for when that vote's going to be.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay? Yes? Yes.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Gillette.
Just want to also thank you very much for your attendance this evening and recommendation. I've been to several ribbon cuttings within the last couple of weeks for Crosby High School and Kennedy High School, and I wanted to just publicly say that our legislators are very interested in the looking at the Wilby Fields and the same process, and I've asked Mr. Brinker to begin that conversation forward with the subcommittee of the board. So we look forward to that continued work in renovating our fields at Wilby for the Wildcats.
I had a couple of conversations with them myself.
Perfect.
I wasn't alone. There's a lot more people, just myself.
That's
Not alone
exactly it,
myself.
but I just wanted to put it out there publicly tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay? Anything else? Thank you very much for sharing that information with us.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you
good
for having
evening.
me.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, Committee of the Whole, IT Department, District Calendar, and B, the State Department of Education 2016-2017 Low Performing Schools Bond, Funding Grant, TEF upgrades, and we did receive the information that we needed to receive?
Yes.
Yes,
Those
okay.
Presentations out there in front of you.
All right, Mr.
And I'd
Mrs.
also
Zuda.
like to invite Ms. Louise Brown up as well.
We already talked, she's.
Okay, but I want to recognize her for her talented work in securing these grants with Mr. Zudo as well. Thank you.
All right, and Ms. Brown, if you need if you wanted to make any comments, we can get a mic back there to you. Just let us know. Thank you.
I think you're blocking the signal. I think we're blocking the signal there, but that's okay. I think it's not working. You have the presentation in front of you?
We have the presentation in front of us, and also it's on the
All right.
easel.
Let's see here. Okay, good. Good evening. Thank you for having me. We're here tonight to talk about the State Technology Grant Award and the implementation of the district events calendar. I just want to go through kind of the Computer Technology Center. I call it by the numbers. Just a quick update as where we are as far as the state of technology in the district. There's 11,235 PCs in the district right now. There's about 25,000 devices that are on our network on a daily basis. These are teacher, student devices such as personal devices, smartphones, smartwatches that are on our network at any given time. There's 1,228 smart boards in our school district, 1,396 printers. There's thousands of other peripherals such as iPads, tablets, document cameras, clickers, scanners that sit on our network. We have about 1,004 digital cameras right now and hundreds of digital door locks that are sitting on our network that are controlled over the network. We do about 26,000 work orders per year, and so far as at the start of the school year, we've already completed 6,727 work orders this year alone. And the department provides support for 18,901 students, 3,000 plus staff members, and 32 schools. So, just wanted to provide you an update on you guys received the award on the recent technology state technology grant that was awarded. So in the past, pretty much grants are the way we've been purchasing PCs in the district. Over the past 2 years, we were able to get 1,990 PCs and laptops that were purchased. Thank you, Louise. And 1,953 will be purchased this school year. Again, thank you, Louise. So of that state technology grant, we were awarded $3.8 million. 23 schools in 11 districts were awarded. 13 out of the 23 schools were Waterbury Public Schools. So we got almost, I think, if I do my math right, I think over 60% of all all funds that were awarded through the State Bonding Commission. With that, we will be purchasing 483 PCs, 1,470 Chromebooks with 49 mobile carts. We will be adding 167 smart boards, 80 network switches, 277 wireless access points, and upgrading the fiber between data closets in the schools. These are for the 13 schools. This was a school-specific grant, not a district grant, so the monies can only be used in the schools that were awarded. By providing the proper foundation, and that was our selling point on the grant, was that by providing this proper foundation, we will be able to grow. The infrastructure updates will provide for a solid foundation to handle the increased bandwidths. We're looking to go from 1 gig to 10 gigabytes between the data closets. This is going to improve, allow us to get gigabytes to the desktop, and it'll allow us to improve school-to-school connectivity and improve school-to-internet connectivity. The grant will be spent, and it'll be spent in 4 phases. Phase 1 will be upgrading the school fiber backbone. Phase 2 will be replacing the network switches. Phase 3 will be replacing the access points, and then Phase 4 will be replacing the additional PCs and Chromebooks on the network. And we got high kudos from the state on this, because our plan was really, listen, don't give us any more devices until we build a solid foundation so we can handle them. We don't want to keep adding devices and we can't handle the throughput on these networks. And they love that idea, and I think that's why, and that's what they told us, was that's one of the reasons why they were awarded so many schools. One of the selling points, besides the great grant writing from Louise back there. So also want to provide you guys with an update on current technology projects. The new student management system, we're still waiting for the mayor to sign the contract before we can actually do a kickoff meeting. So I'm hoping, I spoke to his office this afternoon, actually before I came here, and they were bringing it into him for signature. So hopefully we can get that done and we can start the process tomorrow. The vendor will not come in until a signed contract is in place. We are implementing a power management system called BERT. These are smart power receptacles that remove the need to unplug devices from the wall. So pretty much they connect to our district's Wi-Fi. We actually created a separate Wi-Fi just for them. They work on a 7-day programmable schedule, and they're cloud-based. That allows for monitoring and scheduling, and we're able to turn devices on and off in the network for power saving. This is a city contract that went through. I was just brought in the last point to support these devices that are being placed on the network. Disaster recovery system, we're looking into a new mail server. We're looking to upgrade Exchange 2016, and electronic time and attendance, one of Doc's great initiatives that we're trying to get pushed forward for her, and school security and cameras and door locks. We want to add more cameras and add more of these electronic door locks to the system. The other item that I was asked to come here tonight to discuss with you is our district events calendar. So the district events calendar is a new procedure that Dr. Olet asked me to put together for her. And this is pretty much what we're going to do, is we're going to allow all school events must now be submitted to Nancy Vaughn, who will coordinate all events with the superintendent's office, so scheduling conflicts can be avoided. Schools will submit event requests. These will be submitted electronically via the portal. The portal is on the screen that you see right now. So they'll be able to log into here and then put in the information as far as the event title, the event type. There's a drop down. They will be able to select the certain event types, event location, the start date, end date, and then any type of information, description information they will want on place. And this is a list of schools, and they would just check for which schools would have the event. That would be submitted electronically. Nancy would review it, make sure there's no conflicts. If there are no conflicts, she won't have to retype it. We'll be able to upload it automatically into the district calendar. So this is really hoping that this will ensure that that there are no scheduling conflicts with the Board of Ed, superintendent, or any mayoral sponsored events before planning, and that staff. We've already notified staff. We revoked their rights. They can't enter anything into this district calendar unless it's submitted this way, and Nancy will be the only one actually processing and vetting district events. And the last 2 slides are pretty much a 6-year inventory of the district. Shows you where we were at 6,537 in 2010, and how we're up to 11,235 currently, and we'll be growing that when we add the 2,000 other PCs that we will be purchasing with the bond funds. And the last one is a breakout of the smartboard inventory in the schools, and that was just, I figured I'd put that in there so you guys have that information. And that's it. So, Evan, you have any questions?
Any questions, Commissioners? Okay. All right, Commissioner Hernandez. Then Commissioner Tom Van Stone.
Be nice to me.
Of course.
Commissioner
Great job,
Thank you.
Louise. Will, I know you guys came before us when you were drafting the whole process, and it was very lengthy, and you guys really got into it. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I'm very excited. So I just want to say congratulations on your wisdom and getting the state to give us so many. We appreciate that. And also, Dr. Ouellette for having Will redesign the event calendar. I think that's going to be a great job because we do have a lot of events going on at one time, and it conflicts with us and other events, and we can't get to everything because there's certain things on certain days. But great job, Louise.
Thank you.
Keep it up. Thank you.
And the goal is we're going to put your events up first so people see them and they schedule around those, so, okay.
I'm trying to control myself. No, Commissioner Tom Van Stone. Next up, Commissioner Pagano.
Thank you. Could you go further than just a bullet on disaster recovery system?
So right now, we're currently, the way we're structured right now is if our servers fail, we want to be able to back them up remotely off-site. We have a server in place here at WAMS that we kind of submit data over to on a daily basis, but we need to get a better systems in place, let's put it that way. So in case we have a failure, complete disaster recovery, so in case, for example, that building blows up or we have a fire in the computer room, we could actually just come over here and start operations.
Okay, because we just did an approval to upgrade some of the power backup, right, for the servers that are at Chase Building. Is that connected to this?
No.
Because that's one of the facilities things we saw was
Okay.
generators for the Chase Building, and we were told it was for things like computer backup.
Well, that would help. This would be actually, we had a hard drive failure, any type of major failure, fire that we lost our servers, anything like that. We have a working backup here that we could actually restore quickly from, or we can come over here and set operations up and get the district back up and
So it
operational.
looks like we have two good backups, so it
Correct.
sounds good.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And you probably remember, I've asked this before, when we do our inventory, and this doesn't tell me this, of the active inventory, what is available, and I'm thinking about testing, what is available actually to student population?
So the bulk of it would be available. Recently, what we've been purchasing are laptops and laptops carts. So, I mean, the major purchases have been, these laptops and laptop carts for students for testing purposes. So, the teacher's not going to have more than one. So we take out, we have 1,700 teachers. We take that number away. We still have 10,000, close to 10,000 for students.
So that's a big move forward from where we were a couple of years ago.
It is.
right?
Is it a
'Cause
big
we
move
were
forward?
worried about that.
Correct. We've also keep devices active and on the network for a long period of time, and we have still XP machines up there that we need to get rid of. That we're working, with Doctor on trying to figure out a solution for them. We've been upgrading them to Windows 7 because XP is no longer supported. But, we have some devices that, that's a $10,000, 11,000 devices there. Some of those devices are 7, 8 years old. So, the number's good and it looks good, but, some of those we should have taken off a few years ago. But, if they're working and we're able to, accomplish the tasks that we need to, we kept them going.
Yeah, and I remember we was talking a couple of years ago about the carts, and the carts are really great.
Yeah.
But I was also worried about testing. And it sounds like we're attacking that, if not already there.
Correct, yes, we are definitely. I mean, we could always use more so we can get more kids testing at this, we can shorten that window. But yeah, we are there, and that's the effort, the effort is, and that was one of the reasons with the state was getting the Chromebooks versus a full-blown laptop. We get them for a lot lower cost, so we can get a lot more for them.
Good.
So, okay,
Good report, thank you.
thank you.
All right, Commissioner Pagano.
And Chromebooks are a little bit more secure than a Windows XP machine.
Yeah, you can pretty much get online, and,
Yeah.
and they can't do much more, so it helps us control them, so.
The Chromebook, are they multi-vendored, or do you go to with a sole source?
We currently just bid them out, so there'll be one vendor, so we'll be buying Lenovo Chromebooks.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, I notice a little smile on your face when you said Exchange 2016. Is the rest of your server farm architecture also Windows Server,
Correct.
taking advantage of all the failover scenarios that
Correct,
they
yes,
give you?
correct,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thank you, that's
Yeah.
all I wanted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Theriault.
Who would have thought 30 years ago that we'd have this kind of technology available to our students? Well done, Mrs. Brown. Well done, Will Zuda. I knew from the day we hired you that you were the right pick.
Carrie's very happy too.
And you kind of prove that to us every day, you know?
Thank you.
Every day in every way, whenever any of us has a problem with our laptops and the computers that we use for the Board of Education, you're always there to help us out. One of the questions I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask was, with regard to all these devices and computers and laptops and tablets that we have, our students have access to the internet. I'm concerned about some of the access to the various sites and, you know, how you control that access to the various places that we want our students to go and some of the places that we don't want our students to go, such as Facebook and all these other media sites. So maybe you could explain that a little bit.
Yeah, we have a technology in place called SourceFire right now that kind of allows us to block certain applications and certain websites in conjunction with the state. You know, the thing is that to get any type of federal funding, you have to be CIPA compliant, Children Internet Protections Act. And so, you know, it's a constant battle. Kids are always constantly finding a way around, you know, our system and the safeguards that we put in place. So it's an active monitoring of the system, ensuring that, you know, they can't get to it. If they do, you know, find a way around it, is plugging that hole as fast and as soon as possible. I mean, you know, I get in the morning at about 7:30 every morning, and by the time I come in the morning, there's about 60,000 blocks to Snapchat or 40,000 blocks to Facebook right in the morning. And you know, so you know, it's constant. The moment they walk in, their phones are trying to communicate on the network, trying to find ways around it, you know, through proxy sites and these different tools. So it's a constant struggle. You know, thank God we haven't had any major issues here. I mean, we stay on top of it, and we try to plug the holes as fast as possible. So, but we have this, the tool in place to help us block those applications and block the URLs. You know, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions, commissioners? If not, thank you, Ms. Zula. Thank you, Louise. You rock.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you
great
very
night.
much. Okay, we will move on to item number 4, Committee on Finance. Request approval to apply for the Immigrant Children and Youth Education Grant. Mr. or Ms. DeGeorge. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here to request permission to submit the application for the Immigrant Children and Youth Education Grant. This is an entitlement grant and is based on enrollment. Do you have any questions?
Oh, okay.
Basically because it's an entitlement grant. It's
Yes.
based on the enrollment. We qualified for it, so now we have to submit the application in order to secure the funding.
Understood. Any questions, commissioners? All set? Yes, Commissioner Theriault.
Yeah, once again, I want to compliment you, Delia, on the great job that you're doing for us.
Thank you.
You did a great job for me when I was the principal of Hopeville, and I knew when you went on to bigger and better things, you'd also do a great job.
Thank you.
I compliment you because you fly under the radar. You know, we don't see a problem. There's never a problem with regard to bilingual or the grants or the accountability and so forth. So you're doing a good job, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We'll make sure that we stay in compliance.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5, Commissioners, Committee on Finance. Let's see, discussion of 2016-2017 Quarterly Finance Report. This is Dr. Willett.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a really brief snapshot of the monthly
Dr.
expenditure.
Willett, would you just, we have, next to you, just introduce, please? We know,
Doreen
we know her,
Viola.
but, thank you. Good evening.
I don't think she needs an introduction, does she?
Well, just for the public, yes.
So, again, this is a very brief overview of just July to September 2016. We know that this is going to be closely monitored like it always is for all our accounts. We've just showed you, like I said, a snapshot. This is also just 1 month worth of teacher hitting our accounts. They're back, our payroll begins in September. We have concerns on our special education account. As I have indicated, the account, continues to concern us. We are monitoring it. Couple of points I want to make. It will be extremely tight budget. Doreen and I are meeting constantly, monitoring the situation. Again, this is a good report since July. However, again, this is only reporting out for 1 month's really worth of salaries. I also want to just point to the last page on this document showing that, as I had indicated when we approved the budget, that we will be looking for all our surplus in 15-16, 14-15, the Alliance carryover, the contingency surplus, city non-lapsing account to balance this budget. And we will continually stress that's how we're going to be balancing this budget. Mrs. Biolo and I will be beginning the budget process as we speak. We will begin work next week at my cabinet meeting, and we also will begin to meet with the principals to gain their insight into budgets. We are going to kind of change it around a little bit, gain information for them, seek streamlining, some of the resources to them. I had a very good meeting with administrators today who are very pleased with the way the resources are being streamlined into the schools. However, I would recommend to the board and Commissioner Bacano if we could get a finance subcommittee going sooner than later. Let me get this ball rolling, like, say, maybe perhaps after the holiday, we could begin to look at this. I do predict the coloring of this document to change in the months ahead, as we predicted, but I can't tell you what a spectacular job. I'm thrilled with my Chief Financial Officer, who is truly fitting that role nicely. She is monitoring it. She's advising me on a daily basis, if not weekly. And she is also having to put on that different types of hats and not being the most popular person when she has to say no. So that's all I have for you tonight on this, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have. Thanks.
All right.
Ms.
Do we have any
Biolo,
questions?
anything from you?
No, I just want to say that after this initial report, you'll see this more on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
Just because
Very
obviously
good.
July and August, there wasn't much action going on in the accounts.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Tom Van Stern.
Thank you. I like the no part.
Please no.
Teachers' expenditure is really hard to judge, right? So
Yeah,
much goes
yeah.
on in those summer months. Some get paid, some don't. So
Yeah, it's
the-
also
Well, yeah,
the,
the ones in the summer that aren't reflected in
Right.
this report, they're in fiscal year 16. So the ones that get paid over the 26 weeks actually were part of last year's
Okay.
submission.
My concern about the last year's budget is, I'm worried about, and I've asked some questions lately, is our certified teacher at Waterbury Career Academy, our only Waterbury Career Academy teacher certified to teach UConn courses that we have currently open. I went through last year's budget, and I really didn't see her name or the vacant position. So I wanted to, and it could be me, but I did not see either. So I'm a little worried about that and how we're projecting that out. 'Cause that's
For Career Academy?
Yeah, that's
You were
a
looking
key
at it
position.
in this budget book?
I'm looking at the 16-17 budget book, yes.
Okay, you won't see it because she is Alliance funded.
She is?
Yeah.
Okay,
The first 3 years of Career Academy are funded in the Alliance grant.
okay. Thanks for clearing that
Non-reform.
for me, but my
Yeah.
concern is still there, as some folks noted, been on my email chain. I heard you with the special ed, and I'm sure we'll take care of that.
okay.
somehow, some way, we balance that budget,
Yeah,
right?
we're balancing it on that last page I showed you.
Right.
Yeah.
So other than that, that's really my concerns, is just making sure we're covering our bases.
Yeah, and I would have to say too that we've been really working with Mr. Brinker, Human Resource Department, and Mrs. Owens with Special Education. We are meeting weekly on that. And, you know, we are looking at some options. We're looking at, again, reorganizing our resources, perhaps, but monitoring the situation daily. But I will tell you, I, as superintendent, received quite a few of DCF notifications and placements. And as I kind of, you know, stressed to the board last budget season, we can't predict that. That's an account that we just can't predict.
And that's a bandwagon I've been on for quite some time, as you know, that we don't get the support outside of Waterbury that we deserve when it comes to special education. And that's, there's a little sarcasm in my comment to say we always make it work. But yes, I've brought this to our state reps when we've had our breakfasts, but it just seems to go on deaf ears that, you know, we're a victim of our own success because we have such a good special education department. People come to us, they really do. But we really need to keep pressure on the state reps to show that DCF, as far as I'm concerned, owes us a check. State of Connecticut owes us a check, especially when we still continue to pay for education of students that we don't even educate. So I was a little sarcastic in my comment there on purpose. So I like being at least told that that account is what it is, because we know why. We just need to get help from others on how to fix it.
And I would just say this too, our population is increasing. You've seen a little bump up, and I don't know if Mr. Brinker has sent that out to you yet, the enrollment, or Will Zuto has sent that to you, but we are seeing a bump up in our special education population coming into Waterbury. Not necessarily a DCF placement, but true people moving into the city. So we are seeing that. And I will say that we do have healthy think tank sessions on how to address that, and it's evolving as we speak.
And that also extends to how we evaluate our students also. So, but yeah, that's a topic. I'm not sure where we discussed that in what committee, but I've been saying it for a lot of years, but I think we really need to bring it to a head. And I think we need to discuss further how to do that. So, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Theriault.
Yeah, really, at one point, years ago, the state of Connecticut actually cited Waterbury for over-identifying the special ed problem. I thought they cited us for doing too good a job. I thought that we were identifying our students quickly, getting them placed quickly, within 2 months. So after that audit, now instead of 6 pages, it's probably 24 pages to get a student into a special ed placement, and probably a year of monitoring or more to get them out of the classroom into a place that they might be more educationally successful. Excuse me. That being said, getting back to the report, you know that I always look at that overtime area with regard to the custodians. Having seen that years ago, and some of that overtime seemed to be handed out sort of as patronage from some of the supervisors, and I'm not saying it was, but it seems some of the people seemed to get a lot more money than other people. So I want to be careful that we monitor that, and I have every confidence in the successful application of the overtime. I know we're going to need overtime occasionally with custodians, it's not every day that Donald Trump comes here and we have to have, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people over at, where was it, at
Crosby.
Wilby?
Crosby.
Crosby. How quick I forget. But that being said, you know, if we need the overtime, we need the overtime. But it, you know, it certainly should be delved out on a rotating basis, on the basis of, okay, you got it this week, next week the other guy gets it. It's not always the head custodian that should get necessarily the overtime.
Okay.
I will compliment, as we go around our buildings, since the time that I did my little video presentation, I have noticed a big improvement in the looks of the buildings.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
But I do want to point out some of the stains in the top of this room here, you know, that should be replaced. You know, it gets to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it's 12. So I think when we see those stains, you know, guys should get up, make sure the leak is fixed and repaired. So that being said, I am very elated to see the cleanliness of this building, as well as all of our other buildings as we go around. I don't see any chipped or peeling paint. I don't see any mold. I don't see any discoloration. I see the floors nice and neat and clean. I like to get into the basements of some of these other buildings because I think there's some hidden situations in some of those buildings that might be explored and cleaned out a little bit better. Because the air from the basement of the building in these other rooms permeates the entire structure. And as we start closing our doors and so forth, we notice that our kids start getting sick and our teachers start getting sick. I'm not saying it's necessarily from the conditions of the building, but I'd certainly like to get into every nook and cranny of the buildings to make sure there's no mold, no asbestos, no PCBs, and so forth. Similar to what you did at Walsh, because that we spent, I think, nearly $500,000 in the basement of Walsh to clean it up, and from what I could see, there's a big improvement over there. So I think we should do the same for some of our other older buildings as well, especially Wilby down in the basement in the back. There's a situation down there that I videotaped 6 or 7 years ago that was very concerning. I'm not sure if it was ever cleaned up. So I congratulate you, the superintendent,
Thank you.
and the staff. And getting back to my original comment with the overtime, whoever is taking over for John Cross, make sure that the overtime is under control. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your comments, and I assure you, Mr. Brinker and I have had, again, very good conversation with regards to that. He's certainly monitoring the situation. And we will begin, as we begin the budget process, we will also be looking at the capital improvement projects that will be forthcoming. I also want to say to the overtime, Mother Nature's not cooperating too much today, and I hope this is not an indication of our winter ahead of us, but that's always an unknown for us as well. But thank you for your comments.
All right, any additional questions? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to, let's see, item number 6. Committee on School Personnel requests approval of a memorandum of understanding with Relay Graduate School of Education to provide alternate route of certification. Mr. Brinker.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Good evening, Commissioners. We have a tentative agreement with the Relay Graduate School. They're expanding into Connecticut from New York. At this point, we have 5 applicants in the program, each in a separate school. Each week they go to a meeting either in Bridgeport or one in New Haven. It provides an alternate route to certification. And at this point, the cost to the district is $250, and they are committed to us for, I believe, 2 years.
Okay.
We have a memorandum of understanding that we had vetted through the Corporation Counsel's Office and would like to move forward with it.
All right, thank you. Any questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Theriault.
Having been a graduate of the IPCG program, the alternate program for college graduates, which is the alternative route to certification. There are many, many people out there that are losing their jobs and thinking about going into education and taking a huge cut in pay. At the time, I went from where I was working at Pratt & Whitney to Waterbury. I think back in the 1969, I took a thick $6,000 pay cut, which was about half my pay at the time. So I know many, many other people that have taken this alternative route to certification, and I think it's a very successful thing to do. And I think it's very, very diligent on our part to keep their feet to the fire for 2 years. But I hate to train them, you know, like so many others that we have trained. And after we train them, they get their experience in Waterbury, and after 4 or 5 years, they're off in a golden parachute to another town or district. But I think we have a successful record with those students that take, or adults, I should say, that take that alternative route to certification. And Waterbury, despite what some people might say, is a great place to work. We have great kids, we have great parents, and we have great success. So I encourage anyone that's watching this program to call the clerk of the board, and they can get in touch with you and find out what is the way that you accomplish this alternate route to certification. What do you do, what paperwork, and who to get in contact with. And you can call Carrie, probably be about 5,000 phone calls. At 203-574-8009.
Thank you.
That'll keep her busy. Or we can give her your number, Mr. Brinker. But
Carrie and I can share the same phone number, Commissioner.
But I think, under the circumstances, I think I couldn't, with the exception of some of the test scores, which I'm always pounding on, everybody's working hard here. We're doing the best we can here. It's a great place to work. I spent 32 years of my life in this district, and I'm sure I had bad days, but I can't remember one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sweeney.
Mr. Brinker, you said there are already some people enrolled?
Yes,
Are they actively taking these classes?
yes. They actually actively teach a class in the area in which they have interest, and then once a week, they go to the relay program itself for an additional class.
Okay, so I apologize, but I have to note here, Article 3, 3.1, Relay has applied to the state of Connecticut to receive the alternate route to certification license. They expect to have it by November 2016.
Yes.
If people are already actively enrolled and partaking, if they should not get that license,
What happens?
Then
What
the program,
happened-
then, excuse me for interrupting.
what happens to their credit?
If relay doesn't get certified, then the program will no longer continue.
Well, right, but they've already put the time in.
They have. If we had to have waited, it would have been till next year. We expect Relay, which is a great organization. They've had a long history of doing this. They're confident they'll get the certification from the state. And we didn't want to wait another year to start the program. It is a risk, but I believe it's a small risk.
Do the people who are currently enrolled and actively partaking, are they aware of that risk? Have they been
Yes.
notified that there's a possibility?
Yes,
Okay.
they are. They're aware of all of the contents of that MOU.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
All right.
I just wanted to be clear on that because that concerns me.
If I could,
Dr. Willett.
yeah, Dr. Tucker really fleshed this out last spring. She's been really thorough with this, and she was extremely confident in this program. And we were very fortunate to have the number of professionals enroll in this program. So I trust her judgment in this. She wanted to move forward. There's a little bit, delay with the state and working with that, but I'm really confident it's going to move
Okay,
forward.
and then that's comforting. I just wanted to ask the question, so. Thank you.
All right. Any additional questions? Commissioner Tom Vanstone.
Thank you. There's various ways to do accelerated certification. I think it's called Teachers Across America, a few different things.
Right.
How does this relate to our current teacher population, and has the union actually chimed in to say whether or not they're in agreement with this, or do we even have an obligation to talk to the union about it?
I believe they are aware.
They're aware of the program. I wasn't part of the meetings that established this. I hate to give you that answer, but it was Dr. Tucker. The teachers that we have are now substitute teachers. When they complete the program, we did guarantee them a contract in the area in which they've addressed. So I can't answer for the WTA, but I believe they are
You say
aware of it.
guarantee, but they may, as Commissioner Sweeney brought up, we've guaranteed jobs to people that their certification may not be honored?
No. No, part of this program is when they complete it successfully, again, based on Relay gaining that certificate from the state, then they will have a job with the Waterbury Public School System in the area in which they are currently working toward the certification.
So it's a guarantee pending?
Yes.
The
Pending
approval
completion,
of the-
satisfactory completion.
And approval of the
Absolutely.
program?
Yes. Within the next 30 or so days.
And I know we need systems like this in place because especially with like the Career Academy, if we want to bring in industrial types, if I may, to teach those specialized classes, we don't want to have to bypass someone with 30 years, 40 years of industrial experience based on not being able to have a road to teacher certification. So I get it why we need to do this. I just want to make sure we're all on board. That's why I asked the question, so.
With the Career Academy, you're absolutely right. Most of our recruitment there went to small manufacturers associations, other trade groups, where people have great experience with the industry, but not with education. And as Commissioner Theriault mentioned, they want to switch careers. So that's been our best resource to get people into those jobs. I wish we had more programs like this. We need to move people into education from where they are now.
And
It's
that's
a good
why
thing
I
for
want
all
that
of us.
bridge to be everyone on the same page.
I understand.
Because, and I know from my dealings with the technical high school system, there are certainly avenues to bring in the right people to teach the right classes. So I'm kind of like on both sides of the fence. You know, I want to make sure everybody's on board, but I also understand that the type of teachers we're going to need going forward are not teachers, right? They're specialists, especially for the Career Academy. So thanks for looking into this, and I think we need to move forward on it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Theriault.
Yeah, just to reiterate on what I had said before. When we look at the substitute teachers, actually, if the substitute teachers have been there for 120 days, whatever, I mean, normally it's a 180-day school year, and when we look at long-term subs, we say to the long-term subs, and they have to be certified in order to be a long-term sub, don't they?
They have to be certified to work past the 40th day
Okay,
in one assignment.
okay. And we say to those people that are long-term subs, we will give you an interview, but we're not going to guarantee you a job. We'll guarantee that you're going to get an interview, because I've seen some people that have been disappointed because they interviewed and they didn't get the job. And, you know, maybe that's as it should be. And if they didn't get the recommendation of the principal while they were serving their 180 days, maybe they didn't do well on the interview for various reasons. But I've seen many of them hired under this long-term arrangement of being a good substitute. And I think we should be rewarding our substitutes because we need them on a daily basis. And they fill a tremendous void. But getting into this situation where these people aren't quite certified yet, they're filling in a situation as maybe a long-term sub engaged in this program. And once this program is approved, we'll guarantee them a job to the point that they do well on the interview and have proven themselves as a good long-term sub. I mean, that's certainly implied there, isn't it?
They will have employment at the end. Now, with the long-term subs, with all subs, last year we implemented an evaluation process. So we have a quarterly evaluation for all the subs, and we use that when we evaluate the sub for employment as a contract teacher. We give them credit for their service, other than just a daily sub. So yes.
That's great. And that's great to know. And that's as it should be. Because, you know, when you're running a school and you have 4 or 5 teachers out, you know, and downtown doesn't have enough subs, that's a day, I won't say pandemonium, but it's a day of challenge on that day to cover all those students with all those different teachers and split them up and so forth. So I commend this program, and I think it should go forward as expediently as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any additional questions, Commissioners? All right, if not, we will move on. Mr. Brinker, you stay right where you are.
Yes, ma'am.
To item number 7, which is the request acceptance of the Reed Elementary School State Project 151-0253 as complete.
With me
And-
tonight is Mr. Sullivan, the
Thank you.
interim school inspector, and Mr. Sedensky from O&G.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. This morning, the 3 of us met with a concrete polishing company at Reed School to discuss options.
Yes.
We have some, at least 2 of them are relatively inexpensive that will correct the major crack and also repolish the concrete. There's another option that we will discuss with the building committee when we can schedule a meeting that may bring the color back to the concrete somewhat as it was when the building was open. And all of those 3 options, I believe, are going to be not relatively expensive, but the colorization, we're waiting for a price from this contractor.
Good.
He's a specialist. He does great work.
Great. Okay. Comments? Commissioner Tom Van Stone.
Thank you. First, I know the building committee met at Reed and looked this over. Did anything come out of that meeting as far as comments
Commissioner Sweeney.
and/or recommendations to the full board?
Well, first of all, there was not a quorum, so nothing could be voted out. So we did take a tour and look at the flooring. What was explained to us and what, in my opinion, what I saw was that the material that was used to fill the cracks originally had shrunk. So you could see where the material itself had cracked down the middle of the material, but also had pulled away from the edges of the actual cracks. So looking at it, that made sense to me. That's what I thought I was looking at, was that fill material had shrunk. So it doesn't appear that the cracks have gotten larger than they were when they were originally filled. It more appears that the fill material didn't hold up. So we did discuss the differences in fill material and that there was other materials that would not shrink like we had seen there, but we also did have comments about the sheen of the floor and that some of the color in the floor that seemed to have frayed. It wasn't as vibrant as what we recall seeing when the building first opened. Right. So we also discussed, where we are at in terms of accepting the building as complete from the state in order to get the state funding. And we spoke about speaking with legal in terms of what we could do to possibly recoup costs, but that accepting or not accepting the funding from the state was not going to impact that in either way. So if we sit here and we don't accept the funding from the state and close out the project so that we can recoup those funds for the city, it's not going to, if there was eventually any movement to recoup cost to fill the cracks now again, that was not going to have any impact. The only impact would be that the city would be out that money that they have already bonded and are now paying on. So it was, in my opinion, and Charles can speak for himself, and Commissioner Harvey had also attended, but in my opinion, at this point, we should accept the state funding and close out the project and move on from there. So.
Okay, thank you. It's the term "close out the project" that concerns me. It troubles me because we say that time after time after time, when we have projects that have faults, that we just say, okay, we'll do this and we'll go back to it, and we never do. I think the environmental study that was done by the new firm brought on by the city showed that. So I'm going to have trouble voting yes on this because I think at some point in time we need to take a stand. Someone needs to be held responsible when things like this happen. We're not the experts on construction, but we pay people to be the experts. And when we have things of this nature before we even open the building, that's a problem. I wouldn't buy a house if I saw things like that. I would go back to the drawing board and say, you guys need to do something on my new house. So and I'll stand alone on this island. That's fine by me. I've done that before. But we finally need to take a stand to say, look, we're not the patsy anymore. If we're not going to get good construction, we're not going to get good advice, someone's going to be held responsible. Because I'm really getting tired of no one being responsible when we have so much that we spend tens and hundreds of $millions and we get faulty buildings and we throw up our hands and say no one's responsible. So to me, the buck stops here. And this is the one I'm going to take a stand on because it's just out of control. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any additional comments? Commissioner Theriault.
You mentioned 3 fixes.
Yes.
Kind of like, I don't want to use the term shoemaker fixes, but, least expensive maybe is a better word. I'd like to know the cost of each of those alternatives. And then you had mentioned possibly a more expensive fix, and I'd like to know the cost of that fix. I'd like to know the locations of the cracks that would be fixed, and I'm leaning towards the more expensive fix because it sounds like that might be more of a permanent fix, but I could be wrong. Could be wrong on that. But somehow it seems like when you take shortcuts, you only get what you pay for. I'd rather spend the additional money to fix it and fix it right now than have it come back next year and the year after. As Commissioner Sweeney explained, the material was separating from the crack material was separating from the concrete material. When I walked into that building the first day and saw a crack down the middle of that very expensive mosaic, I was disheartened, to say the least. I hadn't even known about the other cracks within the area of the building. Whether it was rebar, whether it was compacted soil, whether it was footings, I don't expect the buildings that we put up and construct to be cracking within a year or less of completion. Even this building. People have said, in this building there are only minor cracks. And well, you think they're minor cracks, but when you go up and you look at the sheetrock separated by 2 or 3 inches, that's not a minor crack. That's a tremendous amount of pressure. So I think, as we build buildings, is there going to be some expansion and some settlement and so forth? Yes. But that should be taken into account by the engineers and the rebar and the various kinds of concrete and the curing of the concrete. In particular, before you start construction, you have to make sure. I'm not in the construction area. I'm just saying hearsay of what people told me, that concrete has to cure before you can start putting a building on top of it and so forth, similar to what we had here. So I'd like to know the 3 various fixes, the locations of the various cracks. I know there's one in the main lobby, and I haven't seen the ones in the other area. And I'd like to know the cost of the 4th fix, the more expensive fix, and what that would entail. And while you're on the subject, you can give us, maybe later on, not today, an update of what's happening with regard to this building, just a follow-up. Thank you very much.
To the cost, we'll provide them, of course. but we had the meeting first this morning about 9:30. So we're not ready to do that.
Okay.
But I'll provide you at the next meeting or when it's scheduled, an update on this building.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, great, thank you very
You're welcome.
Commissioner Stengel and then Commissioner Pagano.
Thank you. I was at the building committee meeting at Reed and discussions prior to that, even at other meetings that we had. And we always talked about the fact that the floor is structurally sound. There's not an issue with the building at all. We talked about how the cracks in the cement floor, as we saw them, are a natural attribute of a cement floor. We talked about how, and I agree with that, and I talked about how if that cement floor, if the cement floor underneath here right now has those same cracks, we don't know it. We don't know because there's a 3/4-inch carpet with padding over it, so we don't know what's underneath it. There could very well be cracks here. Unfortunately, we went with the architect who suggested the highly polished cement floor with the design through it, and it's a beautiful floor. We talked about how the cracks that were there that night that we saw last Monday or so were the same cracks that were there on opening day, which were noted by many people at that time. And we talked about different things that we can do, remedies, and one of them was to open up the cracks more so that we could put some cement in and seal it, which we talked about would make it more unpleasant looking. So I think that what we have to accept is the fact that this is a natural thing for that floor. Unfortunately, it's what it is. The floor still can be a beautiful floor. I think what set my visual impression of the floor off from way on when the school opened was the fact of the dullness of the floor. And you addressed that earlier, saying that you were going to get a floor polishing company to come in. I think that would improve it, 100%. Perhaps look at the caulking again. We're not looking to jackhammer the floor open. We're not looking for high cost. But I think what we have to take away from this is that it's structurally sound. It's not a fault of a builder, as far as I know, or the architect. It's just the way it was. And to say that we are, that we're being taken advantage of, or that we let things slide by, I don't know if that's entirely my way of thinking. I think that it is what it is, and we'll see to we'll improve it with the floor polishing and perhaps more caulk. I don't think it's going to crack anymore. We know it's structurally sound, so we're looking for a way to improve it at minimal cost, and then to move this through the state level to get our the project reimbursement. That's the way I feel about it. And I thank you for your researching on that too, by the way.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Pagano.
Thank you. These three solutions, do all of them get warranted so that the propagation doesn't continue going forward?
That will be part of the process before we come back to you to know
Okay.
what the warranty is. The warranty on the shine, the repolishing, they suggest an annual maintenance that they would provide at not a significant expense within our budget. The colorization, he cautioned that there could be some UV impact on the colors over time, which happens normally. And as we all know, the high wear through the main office, main lobby, that's going to impact it a bit. Can he warrant that there will be no cracks? No. Because this is not something that's going to remediate. If there was anything wrong with the floor, it's not going to stop it. It is concrete. Everybody that I've talked to since have said, have you walked around Home Depot or have you walked around Costco? And now when I do, I look down. Instead of looking at the product, Costco's probably losing money on me, but I do look down and you find the cracks and they caulk it. So it's unfortunate. I agree with Commissioner Harvey. It's a beautiful building, and we need to make it as beautiful as we can. And I think that's where our focus is right now.
As a child, I worked at Coca-Cola, which was right on that site. And they had cracks in the floor because of one reason only. There is a great brook that goes under there that feeds down from Bellevue and from Lakewood. And once you put buildings near rivers, these things happen. But get the best deal that you can, that's my only recommendation.
Now, today's contractor explained that they sent pictures in to their trade association, and there was a national awards won based on the design of it. That it was at striking a floor when it was first out. So we'll see what we can provide to you all and get the information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sweeney.
Yeah, there was also handed out to us at that building committee meeting, a blueprint which showed where all the cracks were from the original.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll provide that to each of the
And,
board members.
Yeah. For the area that we walked, we didn't see any additional cracks, but with the blueprint, we were able to look at it, and they delineate them as 1/4-inch crack to 1/8 of an inch crack. So we can get copies of those for anyone who, wants to take another look. Again, the request is to sign off on the project is complete as far as the state is concerned, so that they will give us the rest of the funds from their 80% that they put up for the funding. And the only one that we're impacting right now is the taxpayer in Waterbury, because we have these bills and they have to be paid, and they've either got to be paid out of the bonded funds, or we need the state funds to pay those bills off. And again, any recouping of funds that we would get from the floors being repaired a second time is not going to be impacted by the state. It's on us. It's on us.
Yep. Commissioner Theriault. then
Yeah,
Commissioner Stengel.
I did a quick calculation of the numbers that were provided by the newspaper, and I came up with about $500,000. How much money are we looking to get back from the state? Am I wrong in the
Was
calculation?
the newspaper going to give us the $500,000?
No, I'm just looking about the percent of the percent, the money that was held back, and
Oh,
how much are we
I'm
looking,
sorry.
how much are we looking to get back from the states once we sign off on this?
5% of 48 million.
Because I assume, once we sign off on this is complete,
Yeah.
the state is going to get the rest of the money that it has coming to them for the project.
I see you
So,
pulled out.
Maybe a
calculator,
better
okay.
question would be, once we sign off on this project, how much money are we going to have to pay the state from the bonding?
No.
We don't pay the state, no. There's no
Okay.
money we pay the state.
State owes us.
Mr. Sedensky
So the
was the
state is
math
going to pay
major.
us?
Yeah.
Yes.
How much?
They're going to pay the city of Waterbury.
How much money does that involve?
He's doing it right now, approximately.
It's approximately over $1 million.
$1 million, okay. So I was off by $500,000. Give or take $1 million.
You're 50%
All right,
there.
let's see. Just making sure.
All right, so it's a significant amount of money
Yes,
that the state would pay us,
yes.
and then we could take some of that money,
No,
none of that money.
no.
That's for the building.
It's for the
And who-
taxpayers of the city. It
And
goes
who
into
who
the
is
city.
who is going to pay for the buffing and repairing of Reed?
What I'd like to do first is find out the cost.
Yes.
There was a number thrown out today for part of it, and if that were to be the number, we could afford to pay that out of the budget.
Okay,
If it's significantly more, then we'd have to talk.
okay. Part B, maybe we shouldn't build any more schools on the Great Brook. Because
Or,
the Great Brook is up there,
what's
and the
under
Great
here?
Brook is right here,
Same river?
same river.
That's it. This is Mad
The
River.
Mad River's under
Mad
here,
River.
right.
Oh.
Wait a minute, do
That's
they
Great
call
Brook
this
up there?
Waterbury?
That's not Mad River up there? That's why they call it Waterbury, I guess, huh?
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Theriault. Commissioner Stengel.
Thank you. Just to revisit the floor again, it is a beautiful floor, but, and it's state of the art. And people relating to, somebody mentioned building a home before, and I can relate to that in the sense that when you build a home, you might put, let's say, granite counters in it. You just don't put the granite counter in your house and forget about it. You've got to treat it. You've got to treat it in a certain way, different than you would treat Formica or hardwood. So I think we need to look at how we're treating that floor And going forward, if we have that floor polished and it brings it back somewhat, we've got to do all we can to maintain that it stays that way. We can't let it go into visually a state of disrepair in another 3 to 4 years.
Absolutely. And the contractor who met today stated he would provide us with the accepted care product list and the frequency when it should be applied. So, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Any additional comments? I just would like to thank you for what you've done in regards to this issue of the cracks. My point of bringing this up was the fact that the acceptance of the grant may or may not have anything, or doesn't have anything to do with the floor, but I wanted us to take pause to say that, wait a minute, we have issues in this school, and I wanted to make sure that we address those issues in terms of the structure, I think, or the floor, particularly the cracks. I'm in this school a lot. The community uses this school a lot, and that's what we want them to do. We want them to use the school, so it does get a lot of use. But I just wanted us to take pause and to just recognize that there's something wrong here before we go ahead and just kind of just say everything's okay and just move forward. I think the lesson learned here is that although we've built a lot of schools, there's, I think, 5 schools that I can remember being on the building committee that we've built, but I think there was a question that you asked, Mr. Brinker, at the committee meeting, or you stated that, well, we accepted, we opened the school. So that's the acceptance. So, yeah, I'm wondering, is that when we say no, or we pause, because I think all plans were in place to open the school, is that when we say, no, we have cracks in the school? We
No.
have cracks in the floor. Do we, no, we're not going to open the school because of that flaw?
No, that's not when the acceptance of the building occurs. It
Well-
occurs before that. First, we have an architect, and we have a
Okay.
construction manager. They go through, with each of the subs, they go through all of the building, and they certify that it's structurally sound, it's designed, and it's been fulfilled for the purpose for which it was intended. Once all of that is done, they present it to us, and we sign off on the building. And we accept the building, and then it goes to the Mr. Graveling, and he'll certify the building is safe, the city building inspector. You
He wasn't
opening
the
up,
building inspector at the time, though.
I'm sorry, whoever it was or is.
Right,
Whoever is there when the building is open, that's just ceremonial.
okay.
At that point, the building has been accepted by those people that.
Well, and let me stop you right there. That was my point. When is it that, and we can look at this, I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but when is it, when, if and when we build another school, I don't know if it'll be in my lifetime or what, but when do we say, stop, hold it? We have problems here, and we're not going to proceed until these problems are fixed. I don't know. So I'm just raising that as a question.
If I could answer that at the next building committee.
Yes,
I'll
that's
present
fine.
you with the process and each step when you could say stop,
Okay.
if that would be okay with everyone.
That would be,
Instead of off the cuff, so to
Right.
speak.
all right. So back to the issue, is any additional questions? Thank you very much for that. Any additional questions from the commissioners? If not, we'll move on, Mr. Brinker.
I have one more, if I may have another few minutes, please?
Yes,
I'd
I
like to
have.
update you on the West Side Middle School roof.
Yes, that's what we were going to move on to.
I'm sorry, thank you
That's
very
okay.
much.
Yes.
I was prepped. Okay, where do we stand? Well, we've had discussions with the state, discussions with the mayor. At this point, my latest discussion this afternoon with the supervisor of this group that decides for the Department of Public Health whether we move forward or not, stated to me directly that his group will not interpose an objection to whatever we do. He said it is now the responsibility of the Federal Department of Environmental Protection. And he was going to check with the New England Division Manager tonight and if he didn't get him, tomorrow with the Washington DC person responsible for asbestos in schools, to let us move forward. I'm a little confused, a little concerned, because there are federal requirements that already exist in the Code of Federal Regulations that allow for school systems to test bulk samples based on a statistically random sampling. So he's kind of stating that we cannot do that, but it is in the law, well, in the implementing regulations anyway. We meet with them on Tuesday on the 1st. We'll have an internal meeting with them, the state group, to determine whatever he's found out between now and then.
Okay.
Hopefully, at least my hope is that we can test it, and once we test it, then we can move forward, because my belief is that there is no detectable asbestos in that product.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Theriault.
You're done? I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yes, sir, I'm done.
Oh, okay. This is what I said all along, but if I could just clarify what you just said, the federal government allows us to test, but the state is not allowing us to test. So which governmental agency supersedes the other? And if we go with the federal regulation and we say we can test and we go on, is the state going to come back and bite us and say, you violated the state's rights? It's a matter of states' right versus federal rights, you know. I always thought the federal had more power, but I don't know in this case, you know. As I have said all along, this is a great opportunity for those companies that are removing asbestos. And it seems, I'm not an expert on this, it seems like we're creating a bonanza for these companies that are removing this asbestos. And now we're saying to them, it's okay, we don't have to even test this material. We're just going to assume it was asbestos because it was either mined in the same mine or near the same mine that asbestos was found. So we're going to assume, and if I'm wrong at any point, correct me, we're going to assume that this vermiculite somehow became contaminated with a mine that might be within 100 yards or might be within 10 miles of the mine that mined the vermiculite versus the asbestos. So I've said all along, why do we have testing? Why do we have science? Why do we have scientists? Why do we have labs if we can't test the vermiculite? I mean, we didn't spray asbestos. We sprayed vermiculite. Vermiculite was at the time, the state-of-the-art material, and if we had to remove it, we wouldn't have to incur this tremendous amount of expense. But now we're saying because we use the correct material, regardless of whether we were proactive or not, we're still going to assume this tremendous increase because somebody in their, I don't know, in their right mind, question mark, decided that you're going to test that vermiculite, and regardless, we're going to make you remove it. For a cost of, I think what was the cost, increase in cost, $4 million?
Total $4 million.
Yeah, so, I mean, these people that are in this industry are getting a bonanza in removing this material. And maybe that's as it should be, to protect the general public. Maybe it should be that way. But myself, personally, I don't see any rhyme or reason in this. You know, if it's dangerous, I'm the first one as an advocate for the kids. And if it were a danger to the kids and the staff, I don't care what it costs to remove it. But if it's not a danger, and we did it right in the first place, why should we be penalized? I mean, the cost of the project is what, $7 million now?
It was bonded for 3 for the roof and 4 for the removal of the material, whatever it is.
Right. So, I mean, the price of the project is almost double. I can pretty much say that, even more so.
More, right.
So, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm glad that the mayor intervened on his part, and kudos to the mayor for trying to find another solution. Kudos to you and you guys for trying to find another solution to this. Because, I mean, as we go forward, we have all kinds of other buildings that are well over 100 years old, you know, that could be loaded with PCBs and asbestos. And if, you know, we're going to do anything with them, or we get an old building, we want to tear it down, take the Welton building. The old Welton building, where's that? Remember the old Welton building?
On East Main Street.
East Main Street, over by Cherry Street. They were going to go in there and tear it down. I'd hate to see the price tag on tearing that building down, you know? You'd have to take it apart brick by brick, piece by piece. It would be tremendously cost prohibitive. But I'm glad the mayor is involved in this, and I'm glad you and the superintendent are working diligently to find a way. I don't want to say a way around the state law, you know, because I think we have to work with the state law, but I think the state needs to be a little bit more cognizant with regard to their edicts. If they're going to give us an edict with all the other mandates that they have, put some bucks behind us to help. And I'm sure they say to us, well, we give you all kinds of money with regard to this and that and fixing this and fixing that. I'm sure they do. But I think in this particular case, for the cost of the roof to nearly double and to make us remove material that we were proactive on in the first place is just, doesn't seem just to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stengel.
No. Ann was,
Did
Ann
you,
was-
Commissioner? I'm sorry, Commissioner Sweeney.
It's okay, we look.
Yeah.
So we had this problem with Carrington and the PCBs because the federal threshold is much lower than the state of Connecticut's threshold.
Yes.
So in the scheme of things, if it wasn't a school that we were taking down, we would not have had to go to the lengths we had to go to remove those PCBs and to take that building down. So when you meet on Tuesday or whenever it is, what I would like to know from the people from the state is what state law they are citing. Because if they're not citing a state law, then the federal law trumps, and we should be fine. But I have yet to hear anybody cite state law that says you have to treat this as asbestos. So I'm still waiting to hear the section that they're citing.
It's not a state law.
Yeah.
The federal law enables the states to set more stringent standards.
Correct.
They're allowed to do that.
I get that.
So with the PCBs, they were able to set in Connecticut or in this New England region a more stringent standard for it. However, what we've been asking for since we started with this, give us something in writing. Give us something that's not a story about mines. Give us something that says, this is what it is in Connecticut, and then we'll abide by it.
Correct.
We haven't received that yet. We've had stories. The first story was, don't waste your money in tests because it won't matter. This material is there, you must consider it to be that. Okay, give it to us in writing. Didn't get it yet. We're still, then don't blame the US Postal Service, it's not lost in the mail. All right? But I agree with you folks.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't make sense. There's no science behind it that I know of. And I wouldn't want anybody's children in a school that wasn't safe, or anybody's employees in a school that isn't safe. But show us it's not safe.
And I would only disagree with you on this point, that the feds set a standard and allow the states to set a standard, but that standard has to be set in state statute. Okay? They can't just say it, has to be set in state statute. So if they don't have state statute that exceeds the federal standards, then they've got no case. Got no case. And it's not just, the state is backing us with money. They're going to give us 80%. But it's taxpayers' money.
It's all of our money.
And now it's, the Waterbury taxpayers are paying their share of it, and every other taxpayer in the state of Connecticut is paying the state's share of being stupid.
And we're not the only building
Plain
in
and
town.
simple. And it is, yeah, I had requested that as well, and you did tell me something like 19 other buildings could be affected.
Could be.
And God knows how many other school buildings throughout the state. So they need to settle this, but unless they can quote statute to me, I'm going to be up in Hartford and I'm going to be complaining.
Commissioner Stengel, then Commissioner Theriault.
Just to comment on the obvious, we talk about state agency, federal law, state law. But bottom line is, we're going to get reimbursed by the state,
Yes.
not by the Fed. So we have
Yes.
to be careful, and I know you are, and follow this red tape to the whatever that we need to do to make sure we don't do anything out of sequence or wrong.
Yes.
And then the state says, well, you did it, you're not getting the grant. Put your own roof on.
We're not going to do it that way. You're right. Mr. Sedensky has provided us with the initial timeline, steps we have to take, the correct steps we have to take, and when we have to have them done by. If these folks give us something in writing next week, or if the Commissioner of Department of Public Health gives us something, we have to abide by it. We're not just going to go in and say, well, forget about it, we're going to do what we want. We can't. We can't put ourselves at risk financially.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Theriault.
When we first identified, excuse me, the problem of PCBs and asbestos at Carrington School, which was built around the 1950s, I think. When we found that, we decided to move where the most contaminated areas were. We decided to move the upper 4th and 5th grades down to the primary grades of kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. You know, I just found that kind of ironic because I found, you know, if the place was contaminated for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders, why isn't it contaminated for 4th and 5th graders? I found that kind of ironic, but that's why they write science books, right? Then, of course, when we decided to not renovate the building because it would be too expensive with the PCBs and the asbestos, I've never seen any mold up there, but not to say there couldn't have been. When we tore the building down, it was somewhere around $2 to $2.5 million to tear it down, because we were able to, they were able to take the building apart and in bulk dispose of all the material rather than separating it. But that would have made a great stay well health clinic if we, for that section of town, if we could have, you know, contained the asbestos. The reason I'm going back historically, excuse me, on this story is because there's a building that was built in the 1950s. We have some buildings that were built in the 1880s. And I wonder what stuff is in those buildings. I remember Herbert Greengas, God rest his soul, when he came in with the lead meters into Hopeville School. There were 12 coats of paint on some sections of the building that they had painted, and they were all lead. All lead. And all the chipped and peeling paint that I exposed years ago, all of that paint was all lead, including the chipped and peeling paint that was on the tin ceilings over at Washington School, falling down onto the kids' food while they ate. So I'm very, very concerned about our other schools with regard to asbestos and PCBs. I'm particularly concerned about Wendell Cross with the asbestos and PCBs and the possibility of renovating that building rather than tearing it completely down. Actually, I'm concerned about both. I'm concerned about tearing it down, and I'm concerned about renovating it with regard to the PCBs. So I think we need to look diligently at our buildings, and if we found this exposure of PCBs and asbestos at Carrington School, maybe we need to do a little bit more research on some of our older buildings. I was told it's not a danger unless it's exposed, unless it's chipped and peeling. But if it's contaminated, it's not a big problem. Why was it a big problem at Carrington? It wasn't chipped, peeling, or exposed up there. but all of a sudden it was a big problem there. And I hope, not saying, I know, I hope we don't have any of these same kinds of problems in some of our older buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sweeney.
Yep, Mr. Brinker, I'm just gonna ask again, that regardless of how this comes out, if we have to remediate it as if it has asbestos, that we look at the cost of testing it anyways, given the fact that we have the potential for 19 other buildings that we could come across this when we go to do roof replacement. Because if we don't win it this time out with the state, we need to continue to try and win it with the state, because sooner or later, another building's gonna come along that needs a roof replaced, that has vermiculite in it, and we're gonna be right back at it again, 2 days before the hammer falls. So I wanna know one way or the other. I wanna know.
If it turns out that the state does not agree for us to test and not remove the material, we'll come back to you, of course, with the decision, and then if it's the decision of the commissioners that you want to have a test anyway, you'll understand the cost attached to it, and then you can make a decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Moving on to item number 8. Committee on Curriculum. Request permission be granted to D'Angelo, Whams for 4 chaperones to take 50 students to Stockbridge, Massachusetts on November 3rd, 2016 to visit the Norman Rockwell Museum, and we'll need a consensus on this.
Yes?
Do we have a consensus?
Thank you.
Yes? Okay, so moved. All right. Thank you very much. Item number 9. Committee on Curriculum requests permission be granted to Lauren Elias of WAMS and 5 chaperones to take 50 students to New York City on December 14th, 2016 to attend a performance of Cats. Any questions, comments there? All right. Item number 10, Committee on Curriculum requests permission be granted to Luana Rosen Capalupo of Kennedy High School, 4 chaperones to take 50 students to Hyde Park, New York on November 18th to visit FDR and the Vanderbilt mansions. Any questions or comments? Okay, we're losing folks. So I have to wait for you guys to come back.
Could I have the lavatory back?
You certainly can, absolutely. We're going to keep going though, because we're losing. Yeah, we're losing. We just need enough people here just to move on. Okay. Committee on Curriculum requests permission be granted to Paul White and 3 chaperones to take 6 students from Wilby High School 3, Crosby High School 3 to College Park, Maryland, from November 13th through the 17th, 2016, for the Granville Academy College Tour. Questions, comments? I understand that's to go and to you. Would you just comment? That's the HBCU.
Correct. That's the
Okay.
HBCU trip that's sponsored, partly paid through the last of the minority teacher recruitment grant.
Yes.
As well as there are students that will be coming from Kennedy and Wilby as well.
Great.
The forms are coming down as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. White. We've been working on this, so I really appreciate all the assistance here, and I think we're just about ready to, give the final count. And thank you very much, Mr. White, for the names of the students who will be going per the grant. Item number 12, Committee on Curriculum. Request permission to be granted to John O'Toole from the Waterbury Career Academy of 4 chaperones to take 50 students to New York City, New York on November 9th to visit Ellis Island. Questions, comments? Item number 13, Committee on Curriculum requests permission be granted to Alicia DiAugustino from WAMS and 7 chaperones to take 50 students to Pennsylvania, May 23rd through the 25th, 2017, to visit various sites. Questions or comments? Item number 14, Committee on School Facilities and Grounds, use of facilities by the school organizations and/or city departments. And you guys received that background in your package. Item number 15, Committee on School Facilities and Grounds, use of facilities of outside organizations and/or waiver requests. Okay, your update has been passed out on that item. Item number 16, Superintendent's notification to the board. Questions, comments? All right, we're almost there. All right, no, I think that's it. And we have, will not convene for the Lighthouse training this evening, so I will ask for motion for
Motion to
executive session.
convene into executive session for discussion concerning the appointment, employment, performance evaluation, health or dismissal of a public officer or employee, and matters concerning security strategy.
And second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, Commissioners.